Hi, it's November 25th, Wednesday, 2020, during the era of coronavirus, and I'm prepping my turkey. I'm going to cook my turkey for Thanksgiving. Right off the bat, you might say, well, I'm a day early. Well, it's a lot easier to do this whole day early and not have all the commotion going on in the kitchen, because I have all the other cooks that come in who want to do things, and this way it frees up the stove. So let's bring in the bird, the guest of this feature performance, and catch you up to where we are with this year's turkey. Okay, so here's the turkey. It's turkey. Would you like to say hello? Hi guys! I'm the feature guy for today. If any of you guys are very observant, you realize my turkey is upside down right now. So if I season, flip, then I have the right side up later on. That's what I would do if I was going to go for a really crispy skin and make this a presentational bird. Since I'm doing this a day in advance and everything's going to be carved and plated by the time it comes to the table, no one's ever going to see the skin. I'm not worried about the skin. And because my family is very concerned about removing excess fat from our diet, we usually remove the skin the night eat because it's very loaded up with fat. Okay. So let's try take two on having the bird say hello. You put one drumstick in, you put the other drumstick in, okay? And you wiggle it all about, okay? And I do this specifically for my friend Shelly, who's cooking his first bird this year, because he's a little bit worried. We're going to have a little fun with this. Okay, I picked up the turkey at Costco. They said these things were fresh. To my surprise, there was a lot of, this thing was pretty much frozen, not as Arctic or Antarctic deep freeze, sub-zero frozen, but there was huge chunks of ice that came out from this turkey when I went to wash it. I took out the insides, the gizzards, and the neck. I saved that for making stock later on. So you just give it a good rinse with water, and then I brine my bird. And this is the first controversy that I have with my friend Shelly, because he felt that was too much trouble. You don't have to brine the bird, but if you want the bird to taste its best, I find brining it to bump it up to the next level. And I've talked about this in my last video, what the salt does. Salt's chemical name is sodium chloride. That's NaCl. That's salt. Okay, good plain old-fashioned salt. I use kosher salt, not to be confused with iodized salt. The instructions I'm going to give you are for kosher salt. Iodized salt, since it's ground smaller, you get a different proportion if you weigh it out in volume. If you're doing it by a digital scale and you're doing it by weight, it's not going to change. But since I do this by volume, I make sure I work with kosher salt. Also, I don't want any anti-clumping stuff they put in the iodized salt. Kosher salt is just that. There's nothing else other than salt, which is why I use it exclusively for my cooking. So brining, really simple, guys. For this size bird, if almost every bird that I've had for the last umpteen years, I use 2 gallons of water to 2 cups of kosher salt. I cheat a little. I put some hot water in a kettle up to a boil. I put that in with some of the salt to get it to quickly dissolve, and I filled up the rest with cold water. Basically, you want cold water. If you let it sit they would do the same thing. I just wanted to hurry along so I can get the bird into its bath. Okay, so this went into a big pot that this year the temperature outside was working with me, and I just put this out on the outside deck on a table that I have there in the pot. Then filled it up with 2 gallons of the brine, which is again 2 gallons to 2 cups of water, or 1 cup to 1 cup of salt. Okay, and the critical part, I set 2 timers before backup, 4 hours. Okay. Sometimes I've started to play a little bit at a time and reduce it by about 15 minutes or so, because I felt the bird was a little bit too salty one year. But it's basically about 4 hours. Don't go longer. You might want to go a little bit shorter. But 4 hours is a good place to really start, and you can figure out how salty the bird is or isn't. What goes on with the salt and the protein, which are very long molecules, and I'm not going to get too much more into biology here, is the salt causes these long molecules to unravel. Okay, and as they unravel, it does 2 things. It makes the bird tender. It also lets the water into the bird to make it really nice and moist. Okay, so for me, this is critical, a critical step in preparing the bird. You could possibly salt the bird, okay, and let it sit for a couple of hours and rinse off the excess salt and possibly achieve the same thing, but I really do like the brine. It's really worth the extra effort on my part. Some of you may not have a pot big enough to put a bird like this in. You could take out your vegetable bin and use that. You can take a cooler and use that. You can take a paper box that would fit this thing, put a hefty, no fragrant plastic bag in there, gently put the bird in there, fill it up, leave it outside. You say, it's not cold enough, put a bag of ice or 2 in there to keep the bird cold. You got to remember you're working with a protein. Protein either needs to be at above the dangerous temperature or below, and I think anything 40 degrees and below is perfectly good. To do this with a bag of ice in there with water for 4 hours should do fine. Same thing with a cold pack. More cold, more ice ain't gonna make the turkey taste better. It's just basically guarding against any bacteria built up as the bird is sitting. Okay. 2 things a couple other pointers that I make that makes my life a lot easier is I put down a big towel that I have from my laundry room. This is typical, not our good towels. This is just a towel that I have around for the kitchen and stuff. It helps to keep the counter clean, and I do make a mess. And when the wife comes down, I can just roll this up, shake it outside, and run it through the laundry machine. I'll use it later on when I flip the bird. If there's any splashing of liquid, instead of it hitting the counter, it's splashing on me. And God knows I've ruined plenty of shirts cooking. It really seems to help. Don't have to do it, it's just something that I like to do. It helps me to work clean. I've got the oven prepped. I moved my racks down and out of the way. I'm going to turn the oven on to 325. Oven's all ready to go. Just slide her in and put the bird in there. A little thing, but when you pick it up, a 22-pound bird plus the tray and everything else, figure 25 to 30 pounds, and sliding this in, you really don't want to have to fuss with the oven moving racks around. So it's really good to have that taken care of and out of the way. Okay, now to the fun part. Seasoning. I have salt. I have pepper. I have garlic. And I have paprika. Okay? Let's talk about salt for a second. This is a brine bird. It already has lots of salt in there. The only thing that salt's going to do at this stage is crisp up the skin. Who really cares? It also helps in the gravy, and that's really kind of what I'm seasoning now for. Might sound unintuitive. You say, oh, you're salting the bird because you want to flavor the bird. My experience, all these seasoning and all these recommendations and all these fresh herbs that you put, that you see in recipes, that tells you to, to put the thyme and the sage and the other herbs in there, I think is just a waste of money. Yes, it does make the house smell phenomenal, okay? But when you go to serve the bird, you really can't smell those herbs anymore. So that really hasn't really worked for me. I've seen recipes where you're doing a brine in chicken broth, waste of money, very expensive way to get salt into a bird. Old-fashioned kosher salt, water, does perfect, okay? I'm going to be very, I'm not going to use much salt at this stage because the bird is already brined, okay? Let's get to it. I liberally use my herbs. This is garlic. Now, I get in trouble for using pepper because of the wife, but since everybody eats this, and I don't think she's going to watch the video, just conservatively put it in. This is paprika. Paprika is really just pepper that's been dried and ground up. We're going to get some inside the bird. Yes, this is a little salt. A little pepper. I like garlic. I love garlic. And some more paprika. You're getting the idea that this is not an exact science. It's not, okay? Now my bird's upside down. Make sure my wings are tucked in. I don't trust a bird. The reason why I cook my bird upside down is this is all the dark meat and it has lots of fat in it. As it cooks, it will render its fat and keep the breast meat nice and moist, okay? Very important. A little more salt. Pepper. Lots of garlic. And paprika. Okay, that's it. If I've done this correctly, and I have, okay, when I make my gravy, okay, and that's the next step on what I do to prep for that, I don't have to season it. It's already seasoned if I've hit this correctly. If not, I can adjust the salt and pepper a little bit later on. But what I found in recent years that I seem to just have a good knack of hitting this dead on, and other than reducing and defatting and then reducing the gravy, which is how I'm going to show you how we get that going, I don't have to play with the flavor. I've spent years, there have been many years where we have weren't happy with the flavor of the gravy, and we played with it and played with it and played with it. And I think the more we played with it, the more it got screwed up. Okay, so I think this is probably the best way to go about it. I want to point out some other things. So I went out and bought this roaster years ago. I hate these handles that fold down. Get one with the handles standing up. The reason why is to pull this thing out later on and get your hand under one of these handles is difficult. I like a real roasting pan as opposed to aluminum because it doesn't collapse on me when I take it in and out of the oven. And the way I look at this pan, it's an investment in all the holiday dinners that I've been making ever since I bought this. I have to give out a shout out to my old neighbor, Joanne. She had bought one of these and I thought it was fabulous. I love the rack that it comes with. It's Teflon coated. Actually, the Teflon is starting to wear off. Not particularly good, but it does make cleanup a little bit easier. The pan itself is Teflon coated, so it makes cleanup a little bit easier. Aluminum tray, can work with it. I know they make some really big and heavy duty ones. Never used them personally. Just be careful about when you lift that rack up with a bird in it, that it doesn't collapse on you. One trick there I might suggest is put a cookie sheet or a flat Corningware or oven-proof tray underneath it when it's cooking, so that when you lift it with something that's really substantial. Okay, this bird is almost ready to go in. We're missing the three important ingredients, which is the carrots, onions, and celery. I have that already prepped, and I'm going to go out to my refrigerator and grab it. So, as they say, I'll be right back after this commercial. Okay, I'm back. So, I have deli containers. Anybody who's seen any of my other videos of cooking, I love working out of deli containers. This is a 4 cup. This is a 2 cup. Just for references, this is a 1 cup. Just to, in case I forget how much liquid is in each of these cups, I have a little cheat sheet here on the inside of my cabinet door that that reminds me. No, took it off. Finally, put it to memory. 32 ounces, 16 ounces, 8 ounces. Okay? Easy peasy. Here's my carrots. Here's my onions. Celery. Little trick with the celery. Okay? Comes in these long green stalks. Okay? What you want to do is you want to take the threads, okay, the fiber material out of the back. So there's 2 ways that you can do this. Okay? You can make a slight cut into it here and peel it back and slide this along, and that will pull out the strings. Okay? You don't want the strings in here because when you make the gravy, the strings are going to clog up the blender a little bit. Okay? If you don't do it that way, you can actually take a vegetable peeler, okay, and along the back you give it a couple of swipes with a vegetable peeler, and that will get the strings out of your celery. Okay, I'm going with just 2 cups this year. These proportions are not exact. Okay, you can play with them up and down. Not going to make too much of a difference. This is going to be the foundation of your gravy. The pan drippings from the turkey plus the vegetables will all be blended up, and the vegetables help to make this a very thick gravy plus reduction without adding any type of thickener. I don't use flour in this. I did think about a little bit about using cornstarch, but you know, don't need it. Don't need it. Actually, I was thinking cornstarch for a different recipe that needs a agent to help things to stick together. But if your gravy wasn't coming out thick enough, or you didn't have time to reduce it enough, you could add some cornstarch to cold water, maybe a teaspoon to about 8 ounces of water, 4 ounces of water, and then mix that up so it's all dissolved, and then add that to the gravy slowly and watch to see how it cooks and thickens the gravy. Excuse me. This is my blender craft. I have multiple of these. People are always worried about how much they need to make. Well, if I want 10 cups of gravy, I'm going to use 10 cups of water. It's really kind of that easy. Yes, it's going to get reduced, okay, and I will possibly add more water in this as it's cooking. But for the most part, as long as this doesn't dry out, I'll be fine. The reason why I start with 10 is that usually allows me to put it in there for the cooking time without having to go back and fuss too much with it. So that's it for the starting the gravy. The only other thing else that I need to point out is I use temperature probes in here, okay? I put it into the breast, okay? Whether the breast is pressed side up or down. Obviously this is not the breast, this is the back. The breast would be down over here. And I use 2 of them. The reason why I use 2 of them because sometimes they don't work. The batteries run out. I use this as a fail-safe to get in there. I do not cook to recommend time of 165. That is from the FDA. The FDA is a Food and Drug Association. They're not cooks, okay? They're telling you 165 because at 165, there's nothing bacteria-wise living in anything. I cook to 142-ish, and then the temperature rises up from there. That gets me a still nice, beautiful, moist bird. This particular bird is a butterball. I haven't cooked one of these in years. It's the only thing that was available at the big box store. And they have a sheet here for unstuck. I never stuck my turkey. It just causes, I've never done it because it just makes the cooking times longer. This bird is coming in at 22 pounds. I go to the next lower scale. So there's a 22 for 24-pound size that says 4 to 4.5 hours. The 18 to 22, which is the next size smaller, is 3.5 to 4 hours. I will set again 2 timers, one around 3 hours and another one at 3.5 hours, where I'll go and check my temperature to see how the bird is doing. Okay. Let's get the probe set up. Okay. If you don't have an instant read thermometer, do yourself a favor. Go out and buy one. Cooking without it is like driving a car without any instrumentation. You could do it, okay? You can do it safely, but you're not going to necessarily always, get the results you want. With this, you're going to have to go over at that 3 hour, and then every 15 minutes after that, check the temperature of the bird, and you're going to be pushing this into the white meat. Why I look at the white meat is because that's the meat that is most critical to cooking for me. They'll say put into the joint. No, I'm not really worried about the joint. There's plenty of fat in there. The joint will tolerate a longer cooking period. In fact, maybe when I take out my turkey, the breast is done and the dark meat isn't done as much, I'll take that meat off and put it back in for more cooking time, okay? But this way, I'm able to cook my breast to perfection, and which is really what turkey is all about for me, okay? If you're a dark meat fan, you probably want your dark meat cooked a little bit longer. They talk about cooking this until the juices run clear. That has always been a difficult thing for beginners to figure out what actually is clear, or the joint shouldn't be pink. My joints are still coming out a little bit pink, okay? perfectly fine, okay? You know, anything that's been in the oven for 3 to 4 hours at 325, I'm not really concerned about poisoning the family or any bacteria or anything else. This bird is, as they like to say, is cooked. I don't add the liquid on the counter here because this is starting to get heavy. Here's a recommendation when you're using one of these timers: change the batteries, okay? And make sure you put on the alarm, okay? We're going for 142. Ah, 145. Yeah, 142. That's what I like. That said, the timer is 3. I'm going to set this for 3 hours. Okay, the alarm is on. Okay. Put this in the oven, put 2 of the quarts of water in there, set my other timers for 3 hours and 3.5 hours, and that's it. I don't know if you can see this as well as I can. This bird is hanging out over the side of the tray, okay? All that's going to cause is a lot of smoke in the oven because the juices will be dripping down onto the hot tray. There's an easy solution to that. Now this oven is on right now, so these things are hot. That should solve that problem of the drippings from the bird hitting the oven. It'll still make a little bit of smoke, but as you can see, that's the side of the rack. That's where the bird is. This is hanging out a little bit, so that's just will solve that problem. Oops, forgot the liquid. I have my second timer. If you're watching all the timers, so I have a dual temperature and timer on the bird right now. I set the timer on the stove for 3 hours. I have another little timer here, okay, set that for 3 hours. And I still have another external or internal temperature gauge I'm going to plug in. The reason I do this is because there are other people that use the kitchen and come over and touch things on the stove and accidentally turn off one of my timers, okay? Or a timer doesn't work. The last thing I want to do is miss the time on something that's so critical. The time right now is at 7:38 this morning, so I'm going to be checking about 10:38 for the bird to be done. I'll make that put a piece of paper. This is just all safeguards to make sure that I don't overshoot the cooking time on the bird. Once you've done that, there's nothing I can do to bring it back to the right temperature. So that's the reason why I take these extra safeguards. I've learned the hard way. Changing batteries, not a bad thing to do on these things because you know, I'm going to leave this for 3 hours and not really pay too much attention to it. I'll look at it now and then, but I'm not going to really stress about it. I'm not going to fret about it. It's a long cook time, and I'm just going to, you know, be mindful that it's in the oven. Okay, so I'll see you in about 3 hours. Okay, so the turkey timers went off. The turkey was not done at 10:38. It was a few degrees colder. As you can hear the timer now, it's beeping away. The alarm was set at 1:42. Okay, and let's see if we can show you this. And you can see it's 1:50. Now that's 50, that timer is counting up, so that's 54 minutes past the initial time of 3 hours. So having the multiple alarms on time allowed me to come back and check where we were on temperature, and then I upped it by another 20 minutes from my original time. For this turkey, this is a 22-pound turkey, based on the fact my oven was set at 325. Okay, and now for the big reveal. As I used to say, the drum roll please. Okay, let's shut off the alarm. So what I'm trying to show you is where I have the probe pushed into the breast. The breast right now is 150, a little bit past my mark, but that's what I expected. I did not plug in my second probe because since I knew I was going to be videotaping this, I didn't think I was going to miss my temperature, and I'm there in the ballpark. Just want to point out, let's take a look in the oven. And the aluminum foil came out fine. There wasn't any smoke in the kitchen. So even though I put this in, the bird kept all its drippings inside, which is excellent. Saves me having to clean the oven. As I said, an ounce of prevention saves me many hours in cleaning up the problem. Yeah, still reading 144, 145. Okay, now on to the next step. Bird looks like it's cooked. The breasts are not properly cooked. Whether I want to cook the thighs and the dark meat longer, we'll find out in a few minutes. Okay, there's the turkey. Just want to kind of review a couple of things here. So, over the years, I've ended up collecting and using lots of thermometers. Okay, really, it saves my bird. Okay, this is a unit made from Onita. Okay, seems really good. I can tell from all the stains on it. I've used this for years. Actually, this is the first one I ever bought. Okay, works fine. I have a bunch of these little timers, and they are really great. Since the timer went off, I was involved with some other stuff that I couldn't stop. It's been 52 minutes, so this had a little chance to cool down on the stove. And this one was my backup from Taylor. Don't particularly care for this unit. It either reads the temperature or a timer, and this one gives me both simultaneously. I could set a time on this as well as the temperature. The alarm will go off on either one. This one I can either see one or the other. I really needed it for the temperature, and that worked out well. In addition to one timer, two timer here, I had a third timer on the stove. You might think that this is overkill. Well, I typically have set up my turkey to cook overnight. I'll set the oven down to around 275 to 300, so the cook time should be more in the neighborhood of 4 to 5 hours, but the time is really just approximate. What I'm looking for is internal temperature, okay? You want to get your bird out of the oven around 142, 145. As you can see, it went up to about 150. I expect the joints to be still a little bit pink, but if you put a fork in here right now, the juices will run clear, okay? In addition to all those safeguards, I went the old-fashioned technique and wrote down on a piece of paper my start time and my approximate end time. I estimated this at 3 hours. The bird came out at 3 hours and 20 minutes. This is just all backup because you don't want to miss the time. It's probably the only thing so far in this video that really is critical. So actually there are two things that are critical as far as I'm concerned. Brining the turkey, okay, that was one step. Only doing it with kosher salt, 1 cup to 1 gallon for a max of 4 hours. That would be the second caveat. And the third caveat is to make sure you put in your liquid into your roasting tray here. Otherwise you won't have gravy and have a lot of smoke. And the fourth thing is getting your turkey out of the oven around 142, 145, internal temperature to the breast, okay? And that's the other main caveat here that is critical, okay? The next steps I'm going to go through are what I go through to prepare the turkey in its process, and which will include taking the turkey out of the roaster, pouring off the liquid and solids, separating them, letting the solids come to, letting the fat rise to the top of it and defatting it, and then finishing the gravy. This is probably the messiest part of the process. I have my kitchen towel back on the counter. It saves having to clean the counter of slippery stuff. And if you remember, I put the carrots, celery, and onions at the bottom of the tray of the roaster, and then I put this rack on top of it, so hopefully nothing will come out sticking to it. Almost. let's flip the bird out. Okay, so as you can see, that's an ugly breast color. Okay, that's not a presentational bird. That's with the breast side down. I'm going to skim out the solids, put them into my handy dandy deli container here. I'm just releasing the fond that is along the edge of the pan. Since this is a Teflon coated roasting rack, this is really very easy, so all that goodness is floating around in the gravy. Okay, well, if you ever taken apart a chicken or any of the other fowl, same technique. There are 4 major joints. There's the thigh and drumstick. Okay, there's the wing and the arm to the winglet. So this will come off as one piece. This will come off as one piece. This will come off as one piece. This will come off one piece. Then, so that's 4 cuts. Okay. Then I'll break those pieces down even further. Okay. Then I'll wait until the breast cool. Okay, and then I'll remove the right side and then the rest side, and then pick off any other meat. That will then go into a pot to start the chicken broth. I believe Paula, my wife, is planning to make a lovely turkey soup, which has a combination of split peas and barleys in there with vegetables. Sensational. Wonderful, wonderful additional meal out of this. The advantage of doing this now is that when we're done today, the only thing that will be left of this turkey, besides all the meat that we'll be serving in the next day or so, will be obviously the soup, and the bones will be ready for the garbage. Unfortunately, I don't compost bones here because that would cause problems with the way that I'm set up. You could actually take the bones, and if you dig a deep hole and bury it, that should keep the animals away in case you really wanted to be 100% eco-friendly here. Okay. I have my cooking tray here, my roasting tray. That's just going to be used temporarily. I'll bring up aluminum catering trays that I'll put the pieces into. So if you think that I'm procrastinating a little, yeah, I am. The bird's hot, and I don't really want to wrestle with a hot bird, but this should go fairly easy. So that's the first joint in here. I'm doing this upside down for me. I'm going to make a cut here, and that should release the wing here. And I'm cutting through the joint. That looks beautiful. Here's a real test. Moist, a little bit on the dry side for my preference. Good flavor, soft. Now for the second wing. What you're looking for is just to separate the joint. That's perfectly done. No pink, still moist. Onto the thigh and leg. This joint literally just breaks right off. Some wonderful tidbits for the cook. Yum. Let's break down these pieces. The joint on the thigh leg is about here. Nope, didn't hit it. A little bit better that time. That's a pretty moist piece of dog meat. Joint just a little red here. That's not a problem. This is beautifully moist. If I go to reheat up, this will all disappear. Now for the wing. So there's 3 pieces to it, parts to it, 1, 2, and 3. This is for the soup pot. This will go for the soup pot. And I'm having a good time eating the turkey right now. But as the cook, you get to do that. Okay, I can handle the turkey breast, not burning my fingers off. I take the skin off. Now some families really enjoy the skin. You can always put this back in, crisp it up a little bit more, and serve it if that's your preference for your family. My family is very much opposed to any additional fat, so I discard it. So do what your family wants you to do. So if you ever carve the turkey, you know that it can be kind of slippery. So I'm just wiping off some of the more the slippery parts here. My hands are getting a little bit slippery from the fat of the bird. Okay. So this is the breastbone right over here. And what you're going to do to take off the breast, okay, is you're going to put the knife in here alongside one side of the breastbone and just gently work the knife down. And I have the knife pointed towards the breastbone. I want to definitely locate the breastbone with the tip of the knife, and I'm going to use that as my guide to work down along the side of the breast. Now on this side you have the wishbone, and that will also give you a guide through that cavity. That's one breast. That's what's left on the carcass. Okay, you can see it's still nice and moist. I think I nailed the seasoning pretty good. Not over salted. I'm not tasting too much garlic. I'm not tasting any garlic. I'm not tasting any pepper. So, as far as the wife knows, I use no pepper. Okay, that's a secret between you guys and me. There's really no reason for you at carving this up ever to put your hands in any location that you might accidentally cut them. Because right now I've got a bunch of towels in here just to make it easier for me to hold this. Don't have to, but it is kind of slippery. So here again, just to repeat, I'm going to locate the front of the breastbone here and use the point of the knife to work my way in. I'm using the tip to guide the knife along the inside of the breastbone. Okay. There's our two beautiful breasts. I'm gonna let them air cool up here. That's one breast. That's the second breast. One good stick on with skin, one without the skin. Here are the wings. This part is more of an art form of trimming off any of the meats off the remaining of this. We'll use a deli container for that, and it just makes your hands slippery. The wishbone's right in here. We'll go for that next. I'm just trimming away stuff that I don't want. That's just all fat. That's the wishbone. Some families make a big deal about the wishbone. So if you're one of those, come and get it. The reason why I'm taking the rest of this meat off is because the rest of this is going to go into a big pot of water and make stock. And if there's any meat left on it, it's not particularly tasteful because all the good flavors have been rendered out of it. And this container will be for meat to go back into the soup after it's all cooked. So right before you serve it, you throw in a bunch of this meat into the soup, and you'll have a phenomenal soup afterwards. I don't cook the meat again. Again, it's just put as almost as like a garnish. The meat is fully cooked already. The flavor is going to be from the bones. Because I'm not only the cook, but I am the videographer. There's a difference between what's meat and what's it's slimy. If it's slimy, it's fat. Now you don't have to do this. You know, you can pick a way at it and make a wonderful turkey salad out of it, kind of just like tuna fish. Just chop up some onions, some celery, a little mayonnaise, chop up the the pieces so they're bite-sized. You don't want to make it into a dice or anything fine, because you still want to, you know, when you bite into it, you still want to feel that you're eating a piece of turkey as opposed to something that is more ground up like chopped meat. That's the tuchus. Well, she loved that part, but she still does. This isn't good stuff to cook with for the stock. Okay, that's about as far as I want to take this bird. I'm going to prep it for the pot. You can put this whole thing in just the way you see it. I like chopping it up to make it a little bit easier. I don't profess that this is the only way to do it, or the best way to do it. This is just the way that I'm going to make small work with this. This is all the skin and stuff. I don't use that, so that gets disposed of. Okay, so let's recap. That's one breast. That's the second breast. That's all the duck meat. This is where the soup, those are bones. I have a milk container, and I have my bag of stuff that I'm going to throw away. Not compostable. That's it. The only thing that's left to do is this will get refrigerated with lids on it. Either later today or tomorrow I will carve the breast up and plate it. I'm taking it to a friend's house for dinner. I would do a really nice job in carving this and plating it, wrapping it up in plastic wrap so it transports beautifully. A whole lot easier. The gravy still needs to be defatted and blended up and adjusted for, at least I will check the gravy for seasoning. My record so far is usually perfect. I try not to season or play with it. If I feel that it's not thick enough, I like to get that close to when I'm done reducing it. So in those famous words, that's all, folks.